All right, what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm finally getting around to it. I know this video or this documentary been out for a couple of months, I believe. And I know a lot of foundational Black Americans are pretty upset about it. And, I can understand why, because there's very little attention or acknowledgement of who the creators are. What seems to be the theme of this thing is about, that we did it all together. Sounds familiar? And basically, they are as much responsible for hip hop as foundational Black Americans, which we know that that's not true at all. But this is pretty much the theme of it. So although I acknowledge that this is really about Latin hip hop, you still should address the issue of where it comes from. And they failed to do it. So let me play the trailer of this thing and we'll talk about it. I'm not going to play all of the trailer because half of it is in Spanish. Let's go.
If you don't know that Latinos is part of hip-hop from the beginning, then you're a bozo.
Latinos been always down with hip-hop since day one.
African Americans and Latinos grew up in the same neighborhoods. We were together as one, creating this music.
When I met Pun, I knew. I said, yo, this is it. Latinos been waiting for this guy. Pun would fall asleep and wake up and have a whole song in his head and just write it down. Dead in the middle of little did we know that we riddle to middleman who didn't do diddly. Here to be a cold day and how the day I'm taking out.
It wasn't an easy road. Sometimes we weren't Latino enough. Sometimes we were too Latino. You know what I mean?
Latinos just have to do that much more in order to get the respect.
Latinoamérica siempre tuvo.
All right, just like now it's going to go into a more Spanish thing. So that's pretty much the essence of the documentary, talking about the rise of Latino or Latin hip hop. All right, so now let me say this. I kind of understand what's going on because I like to look at things in a more global scale and not look at something just on a micro level. So it's easy to address the inaccuracies in this particular documentary, but I see what's going on globally. All right. Now let's examine why Amazon chose to do this. Okay, this is by Variety. Okay, Amazon Music launches Latin rap campaign, Hip Hop X Siempre, with Fat Joe, Eliado Caron, Nore, and more. Latin hip-hop found its footing in the bicoastal stomping grounds of the East and West Coast, where Spanish-speaking communities were influenced and surrounded by urban rap and trap. Basically, urban rap refers to Black Americans. And see, this is a way of erasure, by not acknowledging who are the people that made this whole thing possible, okay? And this is what this whole doc is really about, erasure of Black culture and Black people, okay? Today, that reach is much more global with booming subgenres extending beyond the United States into Mexico, Puerto Rico, and all the way down to Argentina. Amazon Music wants to showcase Latin rap growth and multicultural evolution by interviewing and spotlighting its most influential pioneers for the hip hop's 50th anniversary with new Hip Hop X Siempre campaign. This is what it's all about. I don't know if you guys realize it or not, but Black Americans are no longer the #1 minority group in the United States. We are the second. Latinos are the first. From my understanding, in this year, or I think 2022, Latinos make up 17% of the U.S. population. It's projected in 2060 that they will make up nearly 30%. Black people today represents about 13 to 14%. Projected in 2060, 15%. They will more than double us in 2060. So what Amazon is doing is looking at the dollar signs. Companies like Paramount, Viacom, BET, these organizations and streaming services are looking at the big dollars that can be generated by catering to the Latino community. And if they can make Latino music or Latino rap mainstream in America, think about how influential that would be worldwide, especially in Latin America. So this is the goal, to change the face of rap from Black to Latino. So we're going to be systematically erased over time. This is why a documentary like this is made, to appeal to the Latino community and the Latino community worldwide. If you guys remember, BET had their Hip Hop Awards, and Fat Joe was the host. And they did a promo featuring Latinos in terms of hip hop. And it was odd because as a so-called Black entertainment cable station, they didn't even hardly mention Black people in terms of hip hop. So they were promoting a Latino theme. And this is where we're going culturally as Americans. Latino culture is going to become more mainstream. And because of that, the face of hip hop will change as well. Let me remind you guys a little bit of what the promo from BET was like.
Very beginning, from backspins on linoleum to plugging up the street lights for park jams.
Let me start that over.
The trajectory, the Latin community has been a part of hip-hop since the very beginning. From backspins on linoleum to plugging up the street lights for park jams. The trajectory of Latins in hip-hop moved from the corners of the Bronx to every corner of the globe. Here are just a few gems that shine a light on some of the biggest figures in Latin hip-hop. Of hip-hop, Latin culture was present. Folks...
Right there. That's the first lie. He said the early days of hip-hop, Latin culture was present. That's not true. And he's going to contradict himself about 30 seconds more.
Like DJ Charlie Chase, Crazy Legs, The Real Roxanne, Tito of the Fearless Four, Prince Marky D of the Fat Boys, and more, paved the way for generations of popular future Latin figures of hip-hop. By the 80s, hip-hop made its way from the streets of the Bronx to the barrios of Puerto Rico. Puerto Ricans from New York would travel to the island regularly to visit family. They would bring their hip-hop music with them, inspiring the youth in Puerto Rico to become fans of not only the music, but the culture as well.
That's where he contradicts himself, because he said that the Latin or the Puerto Ricans had to go to Puerto Rico to show them hip hop. So if it was really Latin culture, then you don't have to go there to show them anything. It's part of your culture. So you brought nothing Latino to hip hop. Okay? So this is where the confusion comes in, because here's the thing. This is what I always say. Just because you are of a particular nationality or race doesn't change the creation. Okay? The creation is foundational Black American. You could be a Puerto Rican, a Dominican, a Cuban, and participate in someone's culture. It does not mean that you have a cultural influence in something. And this is where people get all screwed up. No one, including myself, I'm going to speak for me. I never said Puerto Ricans weren't there from the beginning. I never said Puerto Ricans didn't contribute to hip hop. I've only said Puerto Ricans did not create hip hop. That's a big difference. So no one's disrespected Puerto Ricans. It appears to me that Puerto Ricans want more credit than they actually deserve. There is nothing in the beginning that speaks Latin culture. Okay? Let me move on to the conclusion. Let me see. And then we're going to end this particular video. Give me 1 second. Oh boy, I guess, okay, here we go, conclusion. Here we go. Let's start right here.
Today, hip-hop is still growing in Latin America. Latin trap is the subgenre that has become popular in recent years. Artists like Anuel, Bad Bunny, Mike Towers, Eladio Carrion, and more are amongst the more popular rappers. Although the dominant music is reggaeton, which also has hip-hop roots, Latin trap has been slowly becoming popular among younger fans in Latin America. Whether traditional hip-hop, Spanish lyrics, or emerging sounds, Latin hip-hop occupies a huge space in music globally. The Latin community has been a proud contributor to hip-hop for 50 years.
There you go. The Latin community has been a proud contributor, not a creator, a contributor. Again, when most foundational Black Americans heard about this documentary, a lot of us were infuriated about it, you know, and it felt like this is what the Hispanic community was doing to us. Now, like I said, there's powers that be that is pushing this. They see it as a money grab. All right? This is really what's going on. And unfortunately, many Hispanics are going along with it, and they don't care if they disrespect us in the process. All right, let's deal with the theme and the message of this documentary. I'll play a couple of clips.
To me, hip-hop music is like a religion. You know, it's the one thing that brings people together no matter what.
At that time in the Bronx, there was a heavy influx of Puerto Ricans in the Bronx. There was, of course, the African Americans, and everybody was living together.
We lived in the same neighborhoods. We attended the same schools. We played the same sports outside.
Well, I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, and I never looked at Latinos and black people different. I've always looked at us the same.
When I saw that movie in 1982 with Wild Style, I saw Ruby D. He said this line specifically: Ruby D is my name and I'm a Puerto Rican. You might think I'm black by the way I'm speaking. And when I heard that, I said, this is for us. This is it. This is for us.
Latinos' contribution to hip-hop, you know, it always comes controversy when I say it. I don't know, there's some new thing going on, right?
Now, Fat Joe, you know why there's a controversy behind it. Now, here's my thing with Fat Joe. Here you are on a major platform. You have a platform, big platform yourself. But here you are on a major platform called Amazon. You could do the world a favor by saying to the world, how did Latinos create hip hop? What did they do? What did they bring to the table? You could have squashed this thing right there, but you chose not to, because it's important for you to get this false message out to sell to the world and to the Latin community, especially to the Latin community, that they are as much responsible for hip hop as Black Americans. This is why Fat Joe refuses to address it. He makes it appear that we're all crazy.
Some call us guests, whatever you want to call it, but either way, we were there in the beginnings.
Like, how can we be guests? That's something we helped build.
But Latinos and blacks created hip-hop music.
Well, that's not true, Fat Joe. You didn't create it. You didn't create it until you could demonstrate what elements come from Puerto Rican culture, because you can't use elements that were already in place in the Bronx or New York that were created by Black Americans. You can't use our music. You can't use our slang. You can't use our vernacular. You can't use our dance and say because you're Puerto Rican, that's a Puerto Rican contribution or a Puerto Rican creation. That's not how it works. It has to be a cultural creation, something that you develop out of nothing. Until you can show that, you are a participant. You were there from the beginning. As Charlie Rock said, you were hanging out with the brothers. Charlie Rock clearly said it's a foundational Black American cultural thing. Period. See, this doc basically is a warning sign of things to come. Like I said, I like to look at things in a bigger picture, right? Latinos are going to be the largest minority by far. And with that comes political power and influence. What does that mean for Black America? We're in trouble. We are simply in trouble. All you got to do is look at Florida. What's going on in Florida? They rejected African American AP course. They took away 2 Black districts to lessen the amount of representation Black people can have in Florida. They have a school curriculum that says that slavery was beneficial. This was done by white and Latinos who formed a coalition to deprive Black people of their dignity and human rights and civil rights. This is what's going on in Florida. Now, you heard what happened in California, where Nori Martinez, a councilwoman president, was caught discussing things that she should not have been discussing with other Latinos about Black people. And her aim, and the aim of these council people, was to deprive Black Americans of the things that they need for their districts. This is what's coming. As Latinos get more political power and influence, Black people will be pushed to the margins. Like I said, it's happening all over the country. When you think about the banning of the books, the teaching of Black history, the real history. This is what's going on. We're going to continue to be more marginalized than we are now. And the Latinos, from what we see right now, have aligned themselves with white supremacy. So the Black and Brown coalition will never happen. They're lining up with them right now. So as Childish Gambino said, this is America. And this is the America to come. And they will be chasing us out. This is what's in store. So for all of those brothers and sisters who talk about unity, and I'm all for unity, but when you clearly see what's going on, these people aren't talking about unity. Black people are the only people talking about unity. They're going to push us to the margins. We're already at the bottom. Where are they going to push us to? So this is what's happening. And so when we look at this documentary, this is telling us, this is giving us a indication, a preview of what's to come. The changing face of hip hop, the changing face of politics in this country, where Black people will be pushed to the margins. We have to step up and we have to regain our sense of dignity and fight back. This is bigger than this series or this documentary. This is not about hating Latinos, but I could only look at what they're doing, what they have been doing. Who are they aligning with? Let me show you this quick stat real quick. one might say this is not really related to what we're talking about, but I just thought it would be interesting to try to show you what's going on in America. And this is a reference to reparation for Black Americans. As you can see, 77% of Black people are for reparations. The only 17% of Black people who are against it are the Black people who feel as though America can be what they claim it should be. And they're hoping for the best. Although they may realize we do deserve it, but they don't want to upset white people. So they're kind of against it. As you can see, 80% of white people are totally against it. And they're the ones who did the most damage. Now, the Latino or Hispanic community is not as bad, but more are against it. And that number is only going to grow when you think about immigration, the influx of more Latinos coming into the country, because these people will have no concept of what Black Americans have done for them. No concept whatsoever. They're going to feel like, hey, we struggle. You know, you do what you got to do. So they're not going to be for us. The more that come in, you can forget about that. The Asians, for sure, they're the most white adjacent group. So we live in America where everybody is against us. There are no coalitions that we could join that will save us. We have to save ourselves. Again, this is not hate speech. Okay? I'm just recognizing what is happening in this country. I'm seeing what political institutions are doing to affect the lives of Black people. And I'm just calling it as I see it. Would I love for everyone to get together and be unified and work as one human race? Certainly. But that is not the reality. Black people has never had any friends in this country. And it's only going to get worse. So, in reference to the Latin hip hop Siempre, this is, like I said, it's a preview into what is to come in the future. Okay? All right. Like I said, it was basically very disrespectful, but I expect it to be so. So with that being said, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Like and subscribe. Definitely hit that like button. Get those likes up. Do not leave this video without hitting that like button. I really appreciate it. Okay? Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. I'll talk to you real soon.